Okay, I would like to present you this book, Botvinnik versus Petrosian, the 1963 World Championship match by Mikhail Botvinnik. Now, this book does not show only the 12 games of a match, okay? Otherwise that would be a very short book, I think. It shows, of course, the game, but also the Petrosian view of a match, a symbolic game between Taimanov, Botvinnik, if I remember well, and in this side, that I cannot show, there is the match, a training match that Botvinnik had with Furman. Then the reason why Botvinnik lost the match, obviously Petrosian and his thoughts about watching the match, playing the match and winning. And then, of course, you also have, in the end, the Botvinnik notebook, okay? So there is a Botvinnik notebook with the opening preparation for that match. This makes it very, very interesting, I think, as a book, because it's historical, but it's also show how hard it was to prepare for a World Championship. I hope you will enjoy it, and now I will show you game 9. That is very, very interesting because of how they enter the opening and play the opening. Game 9 is a draw, but it's a very hard fought draw, and you will see from the opening how hard it was because they were both trying to dodge each other opening preparation. So Petrosian was white and he plays with c4. Botvinnik, black, plays e6, so he's not letting him know what he wants to play. Because if now Petrosian played d4, could play this, and this could become an Inso-Indian, right? Or could play this and become a Queen's Indian, or play this. So there are many possibilities, right? But e6 doesn't tell to Petrosian what black want to do. But Petrosian is also a class master level like Botvinnik, plays g3, so he also doesn't want to let the other guy know what's gonna do, alright? At this point, yes, Botvinnik plays d5 and fight for the center directly. Bishop g2, knight gf6, knight gf3, bishop e7. They played a lot of games in this match with the queen's gambit accepted, okay? So that's kind of important to know. Castle, d4, knight bd7. Today the commentator, the Akopian, says that this is a d takes c4, it's more popular than knight bd7. But pay attention what they are doing. Pay attention because you will never believe what this opening is going into. From here, tell me what you would think is this opening, okay? White plays queen c2, c6, bishop f4, knight f, e4. The commentator says not quite accurate here, as the recent game shows. The main continuation today are b6 or knight h5. Okay? Okay. Knight c3. And now, look that it starts to become really interesting. Okay? What would you play as black? Because this is kind of interesting. Botvinnik played g5. Amazing. Then white plays bishop c1, and guess in which opening we enter now. Botvinnik plays f5, and this is the Dutch stonewall. So imagine, would you have ever said in the beginning when they played c4, e6 that this would become a Dutch stonewall? And I don't know why, at this point, it's already the second time I do this video, the camera starts to get foggy. I don't know why. I'm sorry, I'm not... Oh, interesting. So if I do this, I don't know what happened. Okay. Because in the previous video it became foggy at this point and all the video was foggy. Okay, who knows what happened. In any case, so we are in the Dutch Stonewall. Let's see how Petrosian continues, okay? b3, bishop e7, f6, bishop c1, b2. Okay? Okay. And here there is a diagram, and it says, now we reach a position typical of a Stonewall variation of a Dutch defense. At this point, black later tried queen e7, followed by the transfer of a queen to g7. Okay, I don't know if he tried in this match, because I honestly check in the beginning. Let me check again. There is a kind of match table with the opening, and the only one that I can see the Dutch defense is game number 9. So I don't know if Botvinnik played against someone else with this kind of move order, okay? But here I cannot see it. Okay, so bishop f6, g7, rook a d1, rook f8, f7, knight c3 takes e4, starting a typical plan to resolve the tension in the center. f5 takes e4, knight f3, e1, knight d7, f8, f2, f3, e4 takes f3, and bishop g2 takes f3. Now here there is a line in which it's commented on knight takes f3. It seems that white would have been better with knight takes f3. So bishop g2 takes f3. Bishop c8, d7. This is the big problem in the Dutch Stonewall, because as you can see, all the pawns are on the white squares, the light squares, and so this light square bishop has a problem to be utilized, right? And you must utilize it, otherwise this rook is always out of the game. Okay, so bishop d7, knight 1, d3, e1, d3, and bishop d7, e8. It seems this neutralized two moves. One is knight c5 and the other is bishop h5. Now white plays queen c2, c1. A characteristic Petrosian move, pursuing the aim of improving the position of his queen before starting active operations. Another line which does not look bad is the simple knight e5. Okay, so let's see, rook a, c8, queen e1, c1, e3. It was still possible to play knight e5 instead of queen e3. Rook c8, c7, knight d3, e5, rook f7, f5, and bishop f3, g2. It was possible to play this, and here it gives the reason why Petrosian didn't play this, but he didn't put a diagram, so I will let the reader, the one who buys the book, to actually see that line. Bishop f3, g2, rook f5 takes f1, rook d1 takes f1, and queen e8, e7, d8, e7. And now there is bishop g2, h3. White cannot achieve anything significant without the advance e2, e4. So after a few relatively unimportant moves, he returned to his plan. h5, bishop h3, g2, knight f8 g6 and knight e5 d3. And here there is a diagram, okay? What does black plays? He plays bishop e8 f7. Continuing his passive tactics, here black had the opportunity to change the somewhat tedious course of a game by means of d takes c4, and here he gives a line. But you see, the problem is that white at the end of that line retains the initiative, and the problem is once you take, you cannot return back. So you must be really careful. You can move these pieces all you want, but once you have moved a pawn, it's not going to come back. So you must be very careful in what you do, right? Queen e3, f2, b7, b6. And also here it seems it was possible to take on c4 and to make the game sharper for the commentator. But again, we are at game 9. Botvinnik is kind of down 1 point. I don't think he wanted to make the game sharper and risky with black. Maybe you want to attack with white, right? So that's what doesn't make sense. So the commentator, he wants Botvinnik to attack, but Botvinnik with black, and with this kind of passive situation, I don't know, doesn't make any sense. e4, d takes c4, b takes c4, and now there is c5. d4 takes c5, and here the commentator says one assumes that the players were by now in time trouble, as it is hard to explain why white refrained from attempting d5. So at this point he says he should have played d5 instead of d takes c5. Let's see why, because I'm just curious. Bishop takes b2, queen takes b2, e takes d5, c takes d5, c4, e5, c takes d3, d6. Okay. And it seems now queen d7, d takes c7, queen takes c7, and queen d2 offer white splendid winning chances. And there is also another line that he put there. Okay, well, I don't know, interesting thing, but who knows? Maybe it's better to check it with a computer and play it a little around. Let me return back to the position. Okay, I was just back one move. Let's see, so d takes c4, b3 takes c4, c6, c5, and now instead of d4 takes c5 played in the game, we saw the line with d5, okay? Okay, d4 takes c5, b6 takes c5, bishop b2 takes g7, king takes g7, e4, e5, knight g6, f8, and queen f2, f6. Here the commentator said maybe it was better to play bishop e4, okay? Queen takes, pawn takes, and king g8, knight d, e5, knight d7, knight f3, d7 takes f6, knight f3 takes g5, king g7, rook e1. Here it seems that white still has some pressure, but black is able to neutralize with good counterplay, okay? So here black played this move, but this move is not good, okay? So don't make that mistake. The reason is that after this move, white plays take, and rook e5, okay? So there is much more pressure at this point. Well, this doesn't have it, it seems. Tack, tack, and tack. And now you have rook d1. Notice that if white plays king f2, and this is the endgame, so it's something one must be really good, because you're not going to win against a player of this kind in the opening. You win generally in the endgame, right? So in case of king f2, you don't play rook d2, okay, but you play rook c1, because the activity secures black in this kind of endgame from losing, okay? So rook d1, bishop f1, a5, rook e6, e3. It seems after rook e5 there was a draw, and they show it in a line that is just like 4 or 5 moves long. Knight f6, g4, rook e3, a3, a4, very good. Also here, not good was the immediate knight takes h2, okay? So this is kind of important. And let's see the last moves of this game. h3, knight h2, takes, and rook takes a4. It seems there was a winning chance maybe if he played king g2, but again, this is the endgame. Who knows how tired they were in the time. King f2, sorry, rook f2, king g1, rook c2. Now, why is this good? Because the white king is cut off. He cannot help to advance the pawns. So what does white do, right? Rook f3, takes, rook f3, again attack, a4. Remember that generally your rook should be behind the pawn, but unfortunately in this case is the black rook. Rook f4, rook f3, king f2, check, king e1, here, rook f5, h4, g takes h4, and this is the end, and this became a draw. I think the interesting part of this game was the beginning, how they played that opening, fighting each other. And here there is a picture which I think it shows how Botvinnik was tired, or at least it gives me this kind of impression. But it's interesting to see these old pictures, I love them. Thank you very much, I hope you will enjoy this book. It's a small book, but that's why it's good, because you will have a chance to read it all. Often we buy these big books and we never read them, so let's try to finish one.